All right. The long weekend is over. It's time to get back to school and schoolwork and all that great stuff. And of course, with schoolwork is the rest of the book. Um, now, I'm not getting any answers to the riddles. I'm not going to give the answers to the riddles until at least somebody tries to answer a riddle. And then I'll give the answer to the riddles. But unless you try, you don't even get an answer. So, here's the rules. First of all, there's fabulous prizes. I mean, just absolute fabulous prizes. One of them was an electric battery operated Razor scooter, but that is going away because nobody answered that riddle. The 21 speed bike, is still sitting out there. What I'm asking simply is the answers to the riddles. So I need these answers coming in. Now, let me give a riddle, and then we'll talk about the bike. No, not the bike. We'll talk about the book. Okay, today's riddle. What is the one word in the dictionary that is spelled wrong? I'll repeat that. What is the one word in the dictionary that is spelled wrong? Okay? Now, if you know the answer to this riddle, let me know, because I'm the one that tells you whether it's right or not. So don't give me any third party, tell Grandpa it's such and such. Now, that's not going to work. I want the answer to the riddle myself. Okay. Now, to the book. It's been a little while, unless I don't know how you're reading it, but Caleb and Trey are traipsing through the jungle by themselves. Trey went out for a walk after they made camp for the night, and he came across the ghost in the jungle. Well, folks, I don't know about you, but if I was walking into the deepest jungle in Chiapas and I came across a ghost, I would be pretty scared. So, Trey is standing there not even able to get a word out because he is scared. He's surrounded by snakes, giant scorpions, tremendous sized tarantulas, and wild animals ready to jump from the trees, not to mention fire ants. And he walks into a ghost. Okay, today's chapter is long, so settle back, get a beer, glass of rum, settle back. I have some apple juice, good old apple juice. That's good. And we will get into the book. The Ixtapa, which is the ghost. Ixtapa means ghost in Chiapas language. The Ixtapa spoke, as is the Ixtapa would, in a soft, warm, feminine voice, and in a tongue different from any Trey had ever heard in the jungle. Goose Gold, Wohan Gian Si Frumd, Womat Kien Ik Dienen. Sounds like German to me. The ghost stepped close to him, being apparently too wispy to sink into the quicksand. Trey blurted out the only words he could think of. The zoo greeting. Le bo ayat. I already need some apple juice. I've hardly got one page done. The example laughed merrily and said in Spanish, "Oh, come now. You're not Zoe. You're a blonde Mexican." Trey watched confounded as she slipped the veil backward from her head. She was about his own age and height, very pretty, and rose and ivory complexion. Blue-eyed, with long, straight hair, even fairer than his own. She was anything but an evil spirit. The coquetry adornments, free now from the veil, flew blinking circles around the boy and girl as they stared at each other. Trey licked his dry lips, swallowed, and said, "I'm Trey Clark. I live up north in Mexico, but my family came from the United States. So, my name is Liza. Liza Wolf Heinz." She pronounced it Liza Wolf Heinz. "I am Dutch." "Dutch! Dutch!" she repeated impatiently. "German! I come from Berlin. Didn't you notice? I addressed you in German." "What was it you said?" "I asked where you were going. I asked if I could help you." "Maybe you can," said Trey. They continued to converse in Spanish, though. Trey later learned that she had some grasp of English and was fluent in the Zulu tongue. Trey told her where he had come from and how, and that he was going, and where, or trying to. But I kind of goofed up that sentence. Let's try it again. Trey later learned that she had some grasp of English and was fluent in the Zulu tongue. Trey told her where he had come from and how, and where he was going, or trying to go, in Ziampan, and that he had grown-up companion who had work to do for a Mr. Robert Lacode there. "And then you are not on a dig?" Trey had no idea what she meant, but he did detect an odd note of relief in her voice. She went on, "I know the Herr Lacode. His camp is not too far from ours, not too far from here." "And what are you doing in the jungle?" Trey inquired. "You're a lot further from home than I am. My father is an archaeologist. He studies the remains of ancient civilizations there." Boy, oh boy. "I heard the natives here don't like any outsiders. My Vati, my papa, has ways of making even stubborn people accept him. The Zoo may not like us, but they tolerate us. Even so, should you be out alone like this, in the dark?" "I'm not afraid," said Liza. "Are you?" "Not now," said Trey, quite truthfully. He thinks she's a pretty girl. The girl reached behind her, and Trey not noticed, for the first time, that she held the reins of a small, dark, shaggy horse. Hanging from the pommel of the saddle was a holster belt, and in the holster was a small revolver. Trey remarked that maybe the girl wasn't afraid, but obviously she wasn't taking any chances either. "You were," she smiled. "That pistol was pointed at you as soon as I spotted you coming through the trees. Then I saw that you were just a boy, and I put it away." Trey decided not to tell her that she could have disposed of him much more easily just by saying "Boo!" the instant she showed herself. Oh yeah, because Trey thought she was a ghost. Oh, I lost my place. Well, we are. We are, she hesitated, then went on. "We are digging very near here. You must come and see." "Well," said Trey, "we'll be in sort of a hurry tomorrow to push off to Mr. Lacode's. You will pass our camp on the way. Surely you'll be friendly enough to stop and say hello." "I guess so. Just which is the way? You've been traveling a little too far south and east. You must backtrack a bit towards the northwest if you go downhill there. She pointed to the left. You will come to a small river. Stay on this bank and follow it downstream. About 2 hours will bring you to our house. Another 2 hours to the Hare Lacodes. We'll be there, said Trey, with bells on our toes. And thank you for the invitation. They didn't really say bells on your toes. Grandpa kind of added that in. Thank you for coming. She vaulted into the saddle, her long skirt hiking up her slim legs. I was getting tired of being meek and ladylike to the stiff-necked zoo, she grinned impishly. I won't have to be meek and ladylike to you, will I? She turned the horse and in a moment vanished among the trees. They hurried back to the blaze of the little cooking pot beside it, which Mr. Crabtree sat placidly smoking his before-bed pipe, and excitedly told of the encounter. Little apple juice. Thank heaven, said Caleb. We're getting near our destination at last. I'm eager to tackle that job. How long will the job take? Depends on how long it takes me to jury-rig 2 vices to hold the standing ends of the rope. Once I've got them secured, a few hours, no more. A few hours, explained Trey. All this traveling and trouble just for a few hours' work? Yes, I certainly hope Mr. Lacole can make arrangements for our getting out more swiftly and easily than we got here. That girl Lizel had a horse, said Trey. Maybe there are others we can hire or borrow. Which reminds me, said Caleb, if we're going to be calling civilized folk, I'd better remember to shave in the morning. He broke off and stared at some point above and beyond Trey's shoulder. The boy's scalp prickled. He turned slowly, saw what was there, and had to restrain himself from leaping up in panic. Instead, he forced himself to say quite calmly, Le beau ayat. The man said nothing. He stared balefully at them a few yards away. From one hand he dangled a bright machete. In the other he held a bow. Not bent, but with an obsidian-tipped arrow, knocked ready on the bowstring. He was grotesquely dressed in the skin of a jaguar. He wore the animal's head like a helmet, its fangs overhanging his forehead. The skin-lipped forelegs were tied around his neck. Its hind legs were tied about his hips, and his tail trailed behind him. Except for a modest loincloth, that was all he wore. Oh boy, this is scarier than the ghost. But even more exotic and standing was his face. Unlike that of any indigena Trey and Caleb had met so far. Nevertheless, they had never seen that face before. The slanted eyes, the wide flat nose, the thick downturned petulant lip. It was almost a twin to the face of that great stone head on the faraway Gulf Coast. Oh no, folks, this is scary. The man stared so unblinkingly that he made Trey blink. In an instant that Trey did, the apparition was gone. Did you see what I saw? The boy asked in an awed voice. Aye, said Caleb, and I have been feeling that there were no ordinary native curious about our fire. I think we have just seen one of the chiefs of the zoo. I don't like it, said Caleb. All right, little bee juice, honey. Why, he didn't hurt us or even threaten. No, said Caleb thoughtfully, but we've been told so often that the zoo dislike intruders. One white person in the jungle would probably be too many for them. Uh-oh. No, by my account, There were at least 5. The zoo must be feeling the way the Wampanoags felt when the Pilgrims began coming ashore at Pilgrim Rock. A tidal wave of whites. I think the sooner you and I pull out, the better. Not just for us, but especially for Lacode, for Lizel and her father, for any others who have to stay. Lizel had said that she and her father were camped only about 2 hours downriver. It had occurred to Trey that she was counting the travel time by horseback. The river jungle wasn't difficult to get through, and there was a visible path. But Caleb and Trey didn't reach the camp until mid-afternoon the next day. That's more than 2 hours, folks. Camp was an understatement. Somehow the zoo had been persuaded to clear an acre or so of the jungle beside the river and erect a substantial bamboo and thatch house of several rooms. It was set on posts well above the damp ground and out of the reach of any possible floods. It even had a veranda across its front, tightly screened against insects by translucent gauze-like cloth. A string of small shells hung beside the entrance to be shaken as a doorbell. A few native women were washing clothes in the river. Several of them had peculiar stone-head faces. They did not respond to Trey's "Lake boy, yet!" but regarded the newcomers with dark looks of suspicion. Lizel came running down the veranda steps to meet them. "Hello, hello, hello!" her pale gold hair blazing in the sunlight. Her father followed her out of the house and watched at the top of the steps lordly as a baron and the Barbican gate of the castle. They introduced Lizel to Mr. Crabtree. She curtsied, and Caleb said gallantly, "I've seen many a lovely flower in this country, my dear, but you would outshine a bouquet of them all put together." Oh, isn't Caleb a roundy gentleman? "Thank you, sir," she said in English, with no false modesty. "Come, meet my vate." She led them to the veranda and pronounced their names carefully. Then, with a prideful gesture, "The Herr Professor Dr. Gustav Wolf Heinz of Frederick Wilhelm University." "Gustav," the professor corrected him. "Just call me Gustav," he said in a booming bass voice. "We shall be Caleb, Trey, and Gustav." Wolf Heinz was tall and broad-shouldered with a big nose, work-calloused hands, and blonde hair going gray, brush cut so that it stuck up and level as a broom end. His English was perfect, as precise as only a foreigner can speak it. "Come inside. We shall drink and talk. Believe me, it will be a pleasure to have someone new with whom to talk. These natives are close-mouthed." Boy, this is a long chapter. Okay. At best, and this Boyd and Tomboy, he indicated Lizel, who grinned, "scampers about the jungle like a monkey, so I seldom see her." "You didn't bring your wife on this expedition then?" inquired Caleb, as they all 4 trooped into the house. "Alas, my wife died some months ago," said Wolf Heinz, "and I have no other relations, else I should have left Lizel at home. This jungle is no place for a white Fraulein." Apple juice, though. I wonder if they have apple juice in the jungle. Do you think they do? Caleb and Trey expressed their sympathies. "Oh, I'm glad now that I brought Lizel along. I might not have got this far without him." The zoo took one look at her flaxen hair of hers and were most impressed. They called their own daughter only Exten, you girl. But Liesel then respectfully calls Yoque, the morning star, Venus. They were in the main room of the house, a combination of living room, library, and study. In addition to some bamboo and wicker furniture, there were shelves of books, rather warped and mildewed by the damp, and long tables laden with magnifying glasses, trowels, whisk brooms, spatulas, clay figurines, pieces of broken pots, scattered papers, and notebooks. Sounds like my desk here. Wolf Hines dispensed drinks, apologizing for the lack of ice, brandy for himself, fruit juice, or could be apple juice, for the others. While the two men talked and Liesel strove to follow their English, Trey wandered about the room, examining things. The mannequin figurines looked interesting from a distance, but up close they proved to be so eroded that their features were blurred, and the books bore jaw-breaking titles like Mittelamamannisch, Reisen, Strudel, Ostdo, Jahan, 1888, Beast, 1900. So Trey sat down and listened to the conversation. My German is about like my Spanish, huh? After some idle chit-chat, the professor came straight to the subject he seemed most interested about, or anxious about. You're not then an archaeologist, Caleb? No, not a bit of it, said Mr. Crabtree cheerfully. I wouldn't know an ark from an ologist. You're acquainted with Robert Leconte? Say that I know him. We did not socialize much. Caleb explained how Leconte had sent for him to repair a rope. A few hours' work, and he and Trey would be departing these jungles. Ah, yes. We heard that Herr Leconte's mine had shut down on account of the cable's malfunction. We thought he had sent for a new rope. A mine, is it? That was one of my guesses. Leconte didn't explain much in his summons, not even how to get here. Blast his eyes. We were met by a wee Mexican when we landed. Said he'd been sent to guide us. He brought us upriver into the jungle and then abandoned us. No food, no transport, no idea which way to go. We've had to make our own way, by hook or by crook, all the way from there to here. Okay. Incredible, explained Wolf Hines. It would have been death of you. I must congratulate you both on your survival, on your persistence in getting here, he went on. Your new employer, Leconte, only started his operations last spring. Liesel and I have been in Chiapas more than a year. Doing what? Digging for artifacts, man-made objects, sifting the rubbish heaps of the old tribal grounds. He waved at the litter on the table. Caleb looked and said dryly, It doesn't appear that you've earned much on your investment. The professor laughed indulgently. A shard of broken pottery can often tell more to the trained eye. Caleb? Then an entire ancient city like Palenque could tell to a layman. Trey boldly spoke up. And what do these things tell you, sir? Wolf Hines seemed momentarily annoyed by his curiosity, but then he shrugged. I should keep my, how do you Americans say, keep my trap shut until I publish my findings. But you are not competition. I can tell you my theories. You, of course, heard of the great civilization, the Aztecs and the Mayas. Of course, said Caleb and Trey together. The Aztecs have long been called the Romans of the New World, and the warrior culture and their empire building. The Maya have been called the Greeks of the New World for their intellectual achievement, their arts and science. We now know that the Aztecs learned much of their culture from others, the Mayas, the Mixtecs, the Toltecs. But where did these other people learn theirs from? Eh? From what I read, Mr. Crabtree, the Maya were the greatest, and all the others cribbed from them. Most people believe the same, said Wolf Hines. Most of my colleagues have made their reputation by demonstrating that the Maya sprang full-blown into being, as if the whole Maya race had been born at once, and every man of them born a genius. With this I do not agree. I believe that the Maya built their culture upon the foundations of an earlier one. But then I must prove, no, from whom the Maya learned the basics of their arts and sciences. Apple juice. From the Olmecs, muttered Trey. This proved a surprising reaction from the professor. He literally bounced from his chair and fastened wide, almost frightened, almost angry eyes at the boy. Those are angry eyes. Trey hastened to say that he knew was what he had heard from the renegade Sioux seamen on board the Godspeed. He told all he could remember of that. The professor muttered to himself, I didn't realize that any Sioux had ever gone outside. No more will do that. Then he shook himself, as if coming out of a daze, and said, Well, young man, what that sailor told you was true. Very few scientists have paid much attention to the vanished Olmecs. They consider the Olmecs to have been a minor tribe that once lived on the Gulf Coast and left nothing but some carved heads of great size, but of no great significance. From my eye. We've seen one of these heads. Those heads, remarked Mr. Crabtree. If I was a scientist, that would have been enough to interest me. Gustav snorted. No, the ancient Mayas are more fashionable. So my colleagues concentrate on the wretched Lacandones, supposedly the last living connection with the Maya, speaking the purest Maya language. Every other tribe in these jungles presume to speak a very debased dialect of the Maya tongue, and they are ignored. The fools! He was obviously speaking of his colleagues, and he was getting quite as agitated as that Sioux sailor had been. The Sioux, these people here, are descendants of the Olmecs. The Sioux speak the Olmec language, the Super Maya tongue, the Lacanda tongue. They are debasements of the prehistoric Olmec language. He paused and simmered down. I should tell you also that the aboriginal Olmecs never called themselves Olmecs. The name was invented long after their time. The Olmecs' own name for themselves were the Tenasakanimilami. Whoa, should we try that one again? The Tenasilomi. Tenasilomi. Why don't we go with Tenasilomi? The jaguar-faced people. Tenasilomi. The jaguar-faced people. And how did you, Gustav, asked Mr. Crabtree, get onto this track of investigation? I started, said Wolf Hines, from the fact of these great heads of the volcanic stone existing where there are no volcanoes. I went to where there are volcanoes, to the Pacific side of Chiapas, to the slopes of the volcano Tacana. There, Lizo and I discovered a buried ruin that not even the local natives had known existed. The region is called Izapa. I found Tenasilomi artifacts, pottery and such. Alongside, we found pottery made by the earliest Maya, sufficient to convince me that the early Maya had begun their climb towards civilization by learning from the Tennessee Loma there at Izapa, that the Maya were nothing but wandering primitive savages until the Tennessee Loma began teaching them the rudiments of art and science. Oh, excuse me. How do you know it wasn't vice versa? Asked Caleb. That is precisely what my colleagues will ask. But I have evidence. For one thing, the pieces of Maya pottery we found in Izapa were all clumsy and poor imitations of the Tennessee Loma work. For another, my Maya-loving colleagues boast that the Maya invented the world's first accurate calendar, for more accurate than the Europe was using at the time. And so it was, but the Tennessee Loma had the identical calendar. They invented it. Again, said Caleb, how do you know it wasn't vice versa? Because the scientists deciphering the Maya calendar have yet to find a date inscribed on any temple or idol or stone earlier than the year 320 of our Christian era. I have found a date inscribed by the Tennessee Loma 31 years before Christ. 3.5 centuries before the Maya can be proven to have had the same calendar. If I were you, said Caleb, I'd rush right into print with this. You ought to be in line for a lot more honors than any of those Mayan experts. The professor smiled happily at that prospect, but said, You do not know the academic community, my friend. I must gather all the evidence I can. I have a 3-year grant from the university. I must work hard, and during the remaining 2 years of it, collect enough proof that no skeptic can refute it. Liza and I have left the stoppa barely touched. Someday, when that site is fully excavated, it alone will prove my theory. Then why did you leave it? Trey asked cautiously. To follow the Tennessee Loma trail. Before we are done, we will prove that the Tennessee Loma first founded their civilization on the Pacific coast. There they kindly passed on what they knew and learned and invented to the savage Maya. Then the Maya turned against their benefactors and drove them out. The Tennessee Loma moved northward. They settled here for a while, before the over-strengthening Maya forced them on again. I am sure we will find other and later Tennessee Loma settlements, but all is further south. Excuse me, sir, said Trey, but how do you trail the Tennessee Loma? Unexpectedly, Lizel laughed and said, We follow the mustard. Trey and Caleb looked blankly at her. She is not joking, said her father. Whenever a plot of ground has once been cleared for planting or to build a city, and the abandoned for the jungle to take over, the first plant to take root is the mustard. Other vegetation moves in, of course, from moss to monster trees, but the thickest is the common mustard. We look for the growths of mustard, and there we dig. I'll be doggone, muttered Trey. So, we will prove that the Tennessee Loma were forced all the way to the Gulf Coast, where you saw the head, with their backs to the sea. There they could flee no further. But before that they died out, or submitted to intermingling with other tribes. The wise and generous Tennessee Loma taught still other savages. Zapotec, the Toltec, the Mixtec. Their influence extended even to the Aztecs and made the Aztec culture the most spectacular, the last real civilization of North America indigenous. The professors looked up at the glassless window and noticed that the sun was almost down, the room fast darkening. Enough of this dry lecture from a dried-up old schoolteacher, he chuckled. He got up and pumped the knob of the kerosene vapor lantern. When it began to hiss, he lighted it. Time to eat now, and then I am sure you will welcome a comfortable padded hammock, complete with pillow and under a safe roof. Tomorrow we will lend you a cayuca and a boatman. You will arrive at Air Lacaud's camp, unwearied and in style. As Trey and Caleb were preparing to climb into the big hammocks in their allotted room, Trey heard their host and hostesses exchange a few remarks in the outer main room. Liza muttered some query. The professor answered in a low but angry voice. Si, sin, higher, giguma, das, runam, seal, flecken, devushava, baltazar, fruta, si, ender, ocean, alista, sida, aber schon Schweinernudo, haben, Itzefran, Polkadoodle, Hamadoodle, Scooby-Dooble. And my German's not very good. All right. Aber die Schweinbändein haben Inken wanted Dachshund. Vadi explained, Liza, as they're shocked and protesting. Trey knew no German, but he did catch one word of their exchange, and he remembered very well that neither he nor Mr. Crabtree had mentioned to Liza or to Gustav Wolf Heinz the name of their treacherous guide, Balthazar. Oh, that's the end of the chapter. Next chapter, folks, I know you're excited, is called The Rope in the Jungle. The book is called The Rope in the Jungle. The next chapter, we get to Lacaud's plantation, and we discover the broken rope in the jungle. So, we're going to end it here. If you have an answer for the riddle, give it to me. And even if you don't, let me know what the answer is. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.